Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Eric Fedde's sinker, needs to start running. My name's Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
What is up, Nate?
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, it is, we're recording late at night. It is tab after dark, we call it. I got a little trip coming. We got some business to get to. I'll get to it in a moment, but we both got some travels coming up, so we're recording at a very unique time for this show. Not the latest we've ever recorded, though.
No.
We did like that, like midnight recording in my basement when everything went terrible.
Oh yeah, that was good, and that was our best app.
Yeah,
so
good app. Was that
strap in, folks?
It was Christmas Eve. I think we recorded at like midnight, or
I believe so, or the day of
maybe
Christmas.
the day of Christmas.
It might have been Christmas Day.
And
Yeah.
that's the kind of commitment we bring to this show. But yeah, we're actually recording this one on Tuesday night, late night. The game, because of the rain delay, the game has only been going for a little while. But we've got some travel. So next week, Hambone will be out. We can talk about that in a minute. And the current plan, if he's a man of his word, and we know him to be this, so I'm not worried. Daniel C70 himself will be coming back on the show. Him and I are going to chat about the All-Star break and whatever happens between now and that episode. So thanks.
Amazing.
Thanks C70. It's been a little while since we've had him on the show. I think probably he's okay with that. I'm sure when he saw the message coming through, he's like, these guys. He had to hang out with us for like 3 hours a couple months ago. So.
Oh, that was like 4 or 5 hours if you really think about it.
It was a long time.
So
too much. I don't even like being with myself for that long. I can't imagine.
I took all the mirrors out of my house. I'm tired of it.
Well, you can never see yourself in them anyway.
Because I'm a vampire?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a recent development. That's why you have to record at night now, right?
So you're implying that I record outside? That's so stupid.
Yeah.
Shut up, Nate.
In your outdoor studio. I know. It was a bad build when you did it, and then the whole vampire thing happened.
Yeah. I thought mine was good, and then you ruined it.
So Hambone, you're a traveling man right now. You just came back. We talked about it all last week in prep for the Chicago trip. So
right.
You saw the one good game in Chicago.
Oh, I nailed it. I was thinking about the two Cardinal games that I've seen today have both been winners and have both been great games. That Dodgers game when we were in St. Louis, and then the Cubs game on Saturday was a fabulous game.
Yeah, that was an altogether pretty brutal weekend for the Cardinals in Chicago, but that one was fun and kind of uplifting. But how was your trip overall? How was you hadn't been to Wrigley in a very long time. What was your Wrigley experience like?
Man, yeah, I haven't been to Wrigley probably 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
So that was great. We got there I made the whole family and everybody get there like an hour and a half before the first pitch, just so that we could, walk around, get a dog, check out the sights and sounds, all that stuff. I'm just loving being there and walking around, taking photos. And we had a very interesting conversation with one of the ushers who I believe was trying to date my mother-in-law.
Hands off, brother.
And he was bragging about his teacher's pension to her and about how much money he gets from that.
You know how I feel. We're paying these teachers too much, so I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this.
How I feel.
This guy bragging about his pension.
Well, I don't think I've ever heard a teacher brag about how much money they take home. So good for him, I guess. And then I guess he's also part-time usher at Wrigley.
It's a passion job for him,
great.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It's great. Wrigley is the best. I I think I got caught up in the romance and the Joel Pozo home run, but I was like, I need to do this every year. Why am I not at Wrigley every year? It was so much fun. I was wearing my Cardinals gear, and people are giving me trouble, and all the Cardinals fans on the way out we're high-fiving and dapping up. It was great.
Great.
I got my Chicago dog with all the fixins. I got my old style. I mean, it was everything I wanted it to be.
Nice. Yeah, that Bozo bomb. I mean, majestic.
Oh my! It went, and I know everybody, but I was just screaming. It went out of the stadium, and getting dirty looks from people. It was so much fun, and Pozo took so long to round the bases. The Cubs fans were starting to get mad at him. It was just a beautiful moment. Yeah. It was so much fun.
You got a Gorman bomb too, which is fun.
Gorman Apo Taco. Yeah, that was great. We really, really were close to going to the Friday game. We decided to tour some breweries instead. And I was at the first brewery, and it was like 6-0 in the second or whatever the score ended up being. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm glad we didn't go to this game. And then when I read that the Cubbies set a record for most home runs in a game, I was like, I am so glad we did not waste our money.
Most home runs against the starting pitcher, I believe, or something like that.
Is that?
I don't think it was just.
I know they hit 8 bombs in total.
Might have been. I know Miles Michaelis gave up 6, and that was a Cardinal record. Someone can correct us if we're getting this off a little bit, but it might have been both. But I'm almost certain, at least what I read, was the Miles Michaelis most home runs given up by a starting pitcher. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy,
Glad I missed that one.
Yeah. Okay, so any interesting eats outside of the hot dog you got there?
We went to this Filipino bakery, Nate, and my God, we spent way too much money, and we waited in line for way too long. But it was some of the best baked items I've had in maybe ever, if not just a very long.
It's kind of just the Chicago experience, though, right? Waiting too long and spending too much.
Yeah,
I mean, I love Chicago, but it is just a major. It's a major city.
I'll tell you, it's cheaper. Going out there is cheaper than it is here, which is annoying.
Yeah.
But that's whatever. So that was kind of nice. And then I think I talked about this on the last episode, but we wanted to do a little bit of a fancy dinner, and I found this it was like a vegetarian tasting menu, which is like a hard thing to find. And my wife is vegetarian. So anyways, we thought it'd be fun to do a super fancy veggie menu. And we found this it's like 8 or 9 course vegetarian tasting menu. It was Persian food. It was incredible. There was like 4 desserts. It was unbelievably decadent and delicious and great. And I love Middle Eastern food. So it's just all of it was good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty incredible. I'm actually going to Georgia over the next week, so I'm hopeful that I'm going to get some good Southern barbecue or something like that.
I was going to say, I bet they have a 8-course vegetarian tasting menu down there. I'm sure
I think that might not be likely, although and because we're going to be, I would say Atlanta probably, very big modern city, but
that's
we're going to be in Savannah. I don't really know much about it, so I don't want to talk down about Savannah, but just stereotypes, in general would lead me to believe that, there's probably not something like that there. But we're going to look for some good barbecue, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of stereotypes, and I love our Chicago.
What a good way to open any sentence. Speaking of stereotypes.
I just think it's a thick land up there. It's people are healthy is all I'm trying to say. We sat down at a diner for breakfast, and their waffles all came with 2 scoops of ice cream. You get 2 waffles and 2 scoops of ice cream. I've never seen that before, and I thought it was absolutely incredible.
Just like you have to order it without the ice cream if that's.
You would have to say, I'll take the 2 waffles, hold the ice cream.
Yeah, a la mode is a good addition. I don't know about for breakfast or whatever you're doing for a diner.
I was too chicken to order it, but I was impressed by
some chicken with those
Chicago's
waffles.
Ability. They had that too: fried chicken, waffles, and ice cream. That was a meal. One meal you could order all of that.
I mean, we can't be surprised by this, though, right? I mean, that is that.
I was surprised. So I guess maybe I'm I don't know. Maybe I've been in Colorado.
Yeah, can you not have ice cream out in Colorado? Too close to the sun or something? I don't.
Yeah, they don't let us.
You guys are the land of it's Mile High Stadium, dude. Like you're not getting ice cream with your waffles every morning.
Our favorite ice cream spot near our house is called Nugs.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The amount of like, get over it at this point. It's legal in most places. The amount of weed named,
yeah, but we were like second, so that.
Yeah, we were there. It was before you moved out there. They we happened totally unrelated. We were
there 2 weeks after it got legalized.
Yeah, and so I was telling people like, oh, I'm going to Denver January 14th or whatever. And they're like, oh wow, like you really are like you care, huh? You're going out there. I'm like, what? Oh no. I'm there to I'll go on ultimately an ill-fated, but a lot of fun hiking trip. That was the whole thing. But anyway, so you're going to be in Canada over the next week. Hopefully being better at fishing than we are here in our very own Lake of the Ozarks. So I guess you can report back on that in 2 weeks when you're back with us for the show.
Yeah. I'll show the Bird Scored some photos of my fish that I hopefully catch.
Wow. Now, if that's not a pitch to join the Bird Scored, then I don't know what is. Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker. Come on in, y'all. Water's just fine.
I got one other little thing that's semi-baseball related to talk about before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Tangentially related at best. Just mentioned Nolan Gorman. Hambo, have you watched Andor?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
no, that's a lie. I saw the first season.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, this is not a spoiler. There is a planet that is central to the entire season is about this planet, and it's called Gorman. So everyone has Gormania everywhere. The galaxy has Gormania right now, and why shouldn't they? The guy is keeping it going for now. We talked about him a lot last week, and what he needs to do to keep that success rolling. If you look at things like expected WOBA, he's higher than he's been all year. He's doing very well, and I think he might be a little motivated by what's happening on Gorman. But no spoilers, Hambo. I'm surprised you haven't watched it though. This is maybe the first time I've ever been watching something that you haven't. You're normally like, oh yeah, I watched that 6 months ago, you fool.
Yeah. What am I? I started watching Taskmaster.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm watching right now.
The British game show.
Yeah,
you got to get into that.
It's good. It makes me laugh. Do the people of the planet of Gorman all have thick thighs and bad facial hair?
Yes. Yeah, they all look like bullies from 80s teen movies. Yes.
Sorry, had to force that into the conversation.
All right, let's start with some good news. Well, mostly good news. So the Cardinals once again have one representative, at least for now. Some of the dropouts and replacements are happening right now, so maybe the Cardinals end up with a second. But as we stand right now, Brendan Donovan is your St. Louis Cardinal in the All-Star game this year. How are you feeling about that?
I feel very good about it. I feel very good that we have a position player. I feel very good that it is Donnie. He has had a great year. He is... I don't know what it's going to look like. Is this a career year for Donnie? I don't know. I think he could probably tap into a little more power if absolutely everything goes his way. But he's hitting for power. He is walking a ton. His plate approach is great. This team would be really in a different place if it wasn't for him. I think he has got to be. Him and Gray have to be your first half MVPs, right? Maybe Mason Wynn in there too. But with, he's kind of weirdly the face of the team. Which, right? Like, am I wrong? I think he's kind of the face of the team and he's having a good year. So I think it's great. And I love some Donnie. And I do think he's one of the best second basemen in the National League. I don't even think it's a stretch. He deserves it.
No, very well deserved. I don't think. I think you could maybe split hairs on like if you can only pick one, who do you want it to be? Sonny Gray technically leading in Fangraphs WAR, but the pitching in the NL is very very good. Not super surprised that he didn't make the cut. And then I think you mentioned him already. The only other real argument is Mason Wynn, which I would have loved to have seen. But whenever you have a guy who most of his value is coming from the defensive side, um, they don't tend to make it. He's hitting very well, but he's not hitting all-star level. So I'm not super surprised. But I mean, he's right there with Donnie in WAR. And I think you could have just as a good argument that he's, the first half MVP for the Cardinals. But Donnie, I do think you're right. I think Donnie is the face of the team right now. And I think that is
right.
Partly self sort of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here is. Like he
puts himself out there. Like, 100%. Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. There was
Absolutely.
a big discussion about leadership void and whatnot with Goldie leaving and it's been a couple years now, but Pujols and Yachty and Waino all being gone and Arenado being a leader, but not the hoorah kind of leader that most teams need. And sort of the spirit of this team this year really has been this like it's the Donnie mold, even if not every player plays like him. Everyone talks like him. Everyone, it certainly seems like it's like everyone's trying to emulate this guy as far as like what is our team culture going to be like, and so I don't know that this is a career. It could be a career year. He's trending towards almost 5 F4, and if that's the case, then like hell yeah, that's an incredible career year, especially for a guy like him, kind of coming out of nowhere. I think you'd be ecstatic with that, but there's nothing about his performance and nothing about the underlying numbers that makes me think that this is not just kind of what he is now. And assuming health and ability and the team comp staying the way it is, like he seems to me like just he's probably never gonna like surpass 5 WAR sort of thing, but he's a all-star level, right down the middle kind of guy that is going to be in the heart of this team for a long time, hopefully.
Yeah, the Cardinals should extend him. I think anything else we want to say about Donnie?
Only that, we have a conversation coming up later. The unfortunate reality is that there's a guy knocking on the door who might be actually the Cardinals' long-term solution at second base. So the Cardinals got to find a way to keep Donnie valuable defensively and in this lineup in probably the very, very near future. But that's a good problem to have, and I think Donnie's the guy that he'll find a way to be valuable wherever he is.
Yeah, and I think it's the roster crunch. Is Arenado going to be here? Is Arenado going to be here after the trading deadline? There's a lot of questions that we have to ask. Before we move on to that, though, I want to call out. I would very much like to see Phil Maton snatch a all-star appearance as a replacement by somebody who either bails or gets hurt or whatever happens, because I do think what he's done with this first half of baseball is also our all-star worthy. So he would be another representative and somebody who seems very like I said, who could just like kind of sneak in backdoor last day, get in there and would deserve it. And I think that'd be a lot of fun.
He's been one of the best relievers in the NL. You see a guy like Randy Rodriguez for the San Francisco Giants got on. He's been crushing it, and I think Maton is in a similar mold. So, it will. I'm hopeful. Not that it really matters, but it's fun. I'm hopeful that
it's fun.
He
wouldn't get to pitch in the game, but it would be fun to see.
I'm hopeful at least one
with
more
the boys.
Cardinal. Like they're good enough this year where you'd expect there to be more than one from this team in the All-Star game, but the way they've been doing it, they don't really have any stars, so I'm not super surprised that they don't have more than one representative, but For a team that's in the wild card race and has played pretty well, you'd think there'd be more than one representative.
Yeah, I bet Mason Wynn cracks it soon.
Yeah.
And Sonny Gray should probably be there. I don't know. Hey, maybe Liberatore can crack it soon. Who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the whole it's the popularity contest of the whole thing.
Nobody knows who Matthew Liberatore is.
Yeah, there are guys that are worse than both of those guys that have made it. But whatever, the whole system. The whole system is flawed, and so I try not to get worried. There's all these things right now of look at this outfielder and then look at this outfielder and why is this guy and why is I try not to get too worked up on that because it's just fan bases, whoever's having the most fun at the moment, and Cardinal fan base is not there yet.
Something that doesn't get talked about enough with the All-Star game, and it's why I kind of don't really give a shit about it, other than the pageantry and the thing of it all, the red carpet and all that silliness, is it's half a season.
Yeah.
We're judging these guys on half a season.
Well, kind of.
It's not even
right.
It's not even representative of what's happening.
Well, that's where it all gets weird because some guys are in because of a half a season. Pete Crow Armstrong is there because of a half a season.
That's what I'm saying.
And he probably should be. He looks like a young future star. Julio Rodriguez is there because he's a young star, but he's having the worst start to the season in his career, so but everyone loves Julio because he's fun and he's had some incredible seasons in the past. So it's an inconsistent system for a thing that doesn't matter. So whatever,
I think at its core doesn't make sense, but I like the Derby and I kind of watch the All-Star game.
Yep, pretty much. All right. I think probably the we got a bunch of stuff to talk about this week. We always do, but we got ourselves a packed show.
Nadine.
But the big thing is we've been working our way up to it. It's now July 8th, and reporters, people who are actually professionals at this sort of thing, are asking questions directly to John Mozeliak. What are you expecting for this trade deadline? Where is your mind at? What are you focusing on? So we had some good reporting from Derek Gould and some others where Mozeliak had a pretty good interview. Well, I guess we can talk about whether it's good or not. Do you want to read the poll quote here?
Yeah. This is, again, like Nate said, Mo talking to Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Mo said, "I do think ownership, if they saw we were in a good spot and it made sense to do something, I think they'd support it." Mozeliak went on to elaborate that he hasn't done a quote-unquote deep dive into how ticket sales and the club's broadcast deal have impacted things, but he expects ownership to invest in a contending club. So the reason I kind of scoffed when you said, because it's kind of it's like we should savor it. We've had this for a long time. I don't think, as good as Chaim Bloom may or may not be, he can't deliver a quote like that, where he's basically like, I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Your guess is as good as mine.
I never should have said I wanted to trade Arenado. You think I'm going out with anything? You think I'm telling you bitches anything? You fools.
I love it.
You fools think I'm going to give you any information.
Not only am I not going to give you information, but I'm going to tell you that I also haven't really done any other work to understand what I think they might be leaning towards.
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't even. So, and also that, to be clear, that was the first part was a quote and then it was paraphrased by Derek Gould. So he's not quoting him directly, but it is so much to say so little.
It's a lot of words.
To what end?
Yeah.
To nothing.
So
to nothing.
I think the news that's supposed to come from that is that ownership wouldn't block an addition at the trade deadline, in Mo's opinion. and I do think he probably wouldn't say that if he wasn't very confident. It's still Mo, so he's gonna say like 8 things leading up to it and 8 things after it that allow him to walk it all back if nothing happens. But I do think the news is that owner. And I think it's reasonable to want to know that, because for the last couple years now, especially the last year, the story has been that ownership wants to cut costs, right? And it had always been what we'd been told was they want to cut costs, but when the team is ready to win again, they will be there to pay. Like the checkbook will open up again when it's the right time. And so I guess it's good to know that this team, which is one more than we expected, this would probably qualify as like, hey, we're in it and ownership is ready to spend. So that's kind of good news, I suppose. But he layers it with like 9,000 things, because if you read the whole article, he basically has no idea what he's going to do. And I kind of get that, right? Like I kind of get it there.
Well, we talked about it last week.
They're 5 games over.
This is the month.
They're like, the reality is, I was thinking about this earlier, Hambone. Like, I know you and I are gung ho, like go for it if you've got a chance. But I don't know if it was right now, with the way the standings are and the way the team has played, I don't know that I would be a buyer if I was in John Mozeliak's shoes. His probably very comfortable, very soft, very nice shoes, you know.
Right.
I don't know that I would be a buyer. I mean, I know they're only 1.5 back, but I have broader concerns about what this team needs in order to compete through the rest of the week, through the rest of the season, and in short playoff series. So I get his point. But at the end of the day, the article just made me laugh because John Mozeliak is like, I'm not changing it all in my last season here. What are you feeling about from this whole thing?
What do I feel? What do I feel? How do I explain this? What I think, Nathan, is that they want to trade Ryan Helsley.
Yeah.
They would like to trade Eric Fedde, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. He's just completely tanked his value. I also think that they would like to trade Nolan Arenado. Yeah. And I think they want the team to stall out a little bit so it makes more sense, or to have that space in the standings to bail out. I think that is what they want to do. I don't blame them for that. It makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you, it would have been a quicker way to get what you wanted is to trade Helsley or Arenado in the offseason. Yeah. I know Arenado was traded a couple of times and he blocked it a couple of times, but you'd be in a lot better position to sell at the midway point if you didn't have a all-star level closer at the back of your bullpen. So like they kind of put themselves here. It's more fence sitting. But I think what they want to do is trade Ryan Helsley. I think they want to trade Nolan Arenado. And there's this weird part of me, and I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with this, but I could see them trading Ryan Helsley and Nolan Arenado. Arenado seems a lot harder to trade, although the Dodgers chatter is very interesting with Mac Muncy's knee bending the wrong way. Did you see that replay?
I did not. I did, but I didn't really.
Oh my God.
I didn't really focus on it. I was like, I've seen already one terrible injury this year that I didn't really want to be looking at. So I don't know. They're saying it's not as bad as the video looked. But yeah.
Anyways, we know that he would waive a trade there. So is there a way that they trade both of those guys and the team is basically what it is? I think it's probably unlikely, but you move Brendan Donovan over to third base. He'll be producing at a higher level than Nolan Arenado is right now. You bring up my dear friend J.J. Weatherholt to play second base. If he remains hot, you have Phil Maton to lock down the back of your bullpen with JoJo and Riley and whoever else. I don't know. The team doesn't look that much different. Maybe they can keep going and kind of have their cake and eat it too. My bet is they do something like that.
Well, the art.
What I want them to do is add a starting pitcher.
Right. Yeah. A starting pitcher of meaning. Right.
A starting pitcher with 2 or 3 years of control that is under the age of 32.
I don't know. John Lester might still be out there doing it. What's he doing right now?
I'm sure that he is. I'm sure he is available. I think Rich Hill, I mean, he hasn't debuted yet. Go get a Rich Hill.
Yeah. Little Dick Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. The article also, said that they're looking at, we're looking at ways to, do a little this, do a little that. And
Sure.
I kind of want them to trade Ryan Helsley because I really hate just letting that walk, but for the exact same reason that I wanted them to trade him 5 months ago. Right. And for the same reason we wanted them to trade Eric Fedde. And that is, hindsight makes that even easier, but we said it, even though we know the Cardinals need starting pitching. We've said it was a mistake going into the regular season with Eric Fedde in the rotation, just from lost value. No matter how good he was. Same with Helsley, and Helsley's been good, but Maton might be your better trade deadline guy right now.
I wonder, because obviously Helsley has the ceiling of being the best relief pitcher in baseball. And Maton is on one hell of a heater, and the stuff, the metrics back up what he's doing. Maybe you lose both of them, which would, not be great for the Cardinals prospects this year.
No,
but you could probably get some serious capital back. That being said, the days of getting a Gleyber Torres for Aroldis Chapman at the deadline are gone. Like, that trade isn't happening anymore.
Except 2 years ago, the Royals got Cole Reagans for half a season of Aroldis Chapman.
But Cole Reagans was not Cole Reagans. Sure. That worked out extremely well for them. But Gleyber Torres was one of the best prospects in baseball, and then came on to be a future all-star and solid player. Like,
that's fair.
I think the Royals would even tell you they got lucky with Cole Reagans.
That's fair. But to even get a pitching prospect of note, it still would be pretty good for the Cardinals.
Absolutely. That would be good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe we could trade Ryan Helsley for Cole Reagans.
You think they'd be open to it? And why not just toss a Bobby Witt in there too? Junior, don't pull any tricks. I don't mean Bobby Witt Senior.
We get Bobby's dad.
Damn it, Bobby's dad. All right, I guess ultimately. What was he saying? This net? I guess net this year.
Yeah.
You know what I would just want to see, Hambone? I want to see a decision with conviction. I don't even know that I would like if they came out. This is what I said going into over the offseason, and the failure to make a solid decision and just commit in a direction is why we are now here 3 months later in the exact same spot. It's a slightly better team than we all thought, but they are in the exact same decision-making mode of 3 or 4 months ago of, do we go for it or do we rebuild? And now we're just a half a season into Ryan Helsley being no longer being a Cardinal, Eric Fedde, Steven Matz, who's been crushing it, is an interesting trade option, Phil Maton, etc. Maton's obviously new, like that signing has worked out really well, and he's produced this new value. But it's all the same story, just a lack of conviction in a decision has led to this. So I think I've kind of waffled with ice cream back and forth here over the last 15 minutes of this discussion. I think as a fan, I think I would really appreciate them just going for it, just like shoving in trade. They've got some interesting young prospects. You could hold on to a lot of the MLB roster and still, I think, make meaningful additions to this team, including what you're talking about. I don't think you have to blow up the future to make the team significantly better this year. I think you could do both. That's what I would prefer. But if they do decide to trade Phil Maton, Ryan Helsley, etc., then just fucking do it. Trade them, trade Arenado if you can. Maybe even put together a Burleson and someone else and trade them to, and just say JJ's here, Brendan Donovan's here, Victor Scott's here. this is our future. Hopefully Gorman, I don't want to run down the whole list right now, but we know who we want to commit with. Let's commit with them. Let's use this high draft pick we have coming up. Let's look at some of these other outfielders we have and just like go and just commit one way or another. But this like middle ground, it's just, we're right here again.
Yeah. Yeah. If they go and get a 6th starter type who is on his last legs, I will be very annoyed and just hand the keys over to Heim, like, get out of here. We're done with this. But yeah, just I get what you're saying, but just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, like, I really don't think the Giants are all that good.
Yeah.
I really don't think the Padres are all that good. They're at least not playing well. The wild card is open, and it's a cluster after that. But I would prefer they push in than
I think I do
out.
too. That's what I was saying. I think I've gone back and forth on this, and I think I always like go for it, try to win. We didn't expect to be a game and a half back the wild card, and you're right. There's some openings there. So if you have the chance to go for it, you should go for it. But if not, go the entire other way. Don't just
100%.
like 100%. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah.
Tear the house down to the studs, replace the studs, and put up new drywall.
Wonder how much that would cost.
I have no idea.
Hambone and I were talking about drywall replacement costs before we started recording. So
I didn't think they needed to know that. Nate. That was just for you.
Oh, no. It's content, baby. All right. We've already talked about it. Let's move on. We've already talked. Yeah. By the time you're back from Canada, like, we might.
They'll all be dead. This will be done, man.
You won't be allowed back in. So we've mentioned his name a bunch already. JJ Weatherholt was promoted to AAA.
Wow.
He continues to the profile from college ball and whatnot has transferred entirely to the upper level of the minors. He's doing well immediately at AAA. We expect every prospect has their ups and downs, their hiccups, but like, this guy looks like the next starting second baseman or shortstop that we all know that's blocked for a good reason. But he can play both is really why I bring it up. He's a future infielder of this team for hopefully a very long time, and a type of bat that I think, we kind of have in Brendan Donovan. But I think there's more upside with JJ Weatherholt, and I'm excited for him to come up here. And that to me is part of the fun of the potential sell-off idea, is that like JJ would be, I think, in the majors if it weren't for Brendan Donovan, Sajasi, Gorman, Arenado, all of that. He'd be here right now.
Yeah. Totally.
So, but this is a good problem to have. I'm okay with him. Let him. The Cardinals maybe called up Jordan Walker too soon. Well, yeah. I
mean, something that Kyle talks about all the time is like, have they struggled in the minors and bounced back from that struggle? And, Walker never struggled, and, we're living in it. Now, I don't know, if it's directly related, but I think Kyle's probably onto something. And something to point out is that JJ Weatherholt hasn't struggled yet. He put up a 140 WRC plus last year in very limited time in pro ball, and then this year at AA, a 150 WRC plus, and every number looks great. I mean, he's stealing bases, he's walking more than he's striking out, he's got just enough pop, and that write-up on Fangraphs of him recently, I mean, it's glowing. We're talking about a legit 60 grade hit tool, a power potential guy, and a guy that's patient. If that hit tool sticks around and he sticks at second base, it seems like he very much will. Like, you're looking at a potential all-star.
Yeah.
So it's very, very exciting. I do think pretty much no matter what, after he is in the AAA for a couple of months, not no matter what. I think if he's at AAA for a month or two and succeeds, he will force his way onto the roster. Yeah. I think it'll just happen quickly.
Yeah. And great, It maybe makes it a little bit easier to make a trade that kind of hurts, right? Hurts your feet, hurts in a way where, like, I hate to lose this guy, but we have no place to play him, so let's trade him. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that guy isn't Donnie, although Donnie does make a lot of sense to trade. He is closer to free agency and older.
I know.
But man, I would hate it.
We
and I think he could get you a really nice player.
Yeah. I was thinking about him with there's a couple teams, but I was thinking about him in Seattle the other day.
Yeah.
Because Seattle has a terrible ballpark for power, especially right-handed power. And so what that does, they have a lot of guys who fly out a lot because no one hits it deep enough. So I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me that if I was Seattle, I'd be like, all right, well, let's just stop trying to. We've got a couple boppers. We've got Kyle Raleigh. Julio.
He can hit him.
He can hit him anywhere. Julio, when he's playing well, he can hit him anywhere. So let's just surround them with guys that hit like 320. And that with that ballpark, you can see Donnie hitting him in the gaps left and right. But I don't know. We started this whole episode with talking about how much we love Brendan Donovan, and he's like the face of the team. So it's hard to 20 minutes later be like, yeah, they should trade Brendan Donovan. But he is kind of one of the guys that makes the most sense if you're doing like a value for value sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think his age, and he's got a proven track record and everything, it makes a lot of sense. I love the idea of getting one of those Seattle pitchers, but who are you getting? It's like, do you believe in Luis Castillo at the end? Like, no. He's 32, 33. You're not going to get Brian Wu from them. You're not going to get Gilbert or Kirby, I wouldn't think, unless you go really, really hard. So then you're starting to talk about, Bryce Miller, he's hurt right now. I'm a big fan of Emerson Hancock, although he got his ass handed to him in his cup of coffee this year. What do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like the move there is we hope that we can overwhelm them with value and get one of those guys that is good and has a few more years of control. And they just say it's like time for us to rebalance our team a little bit, just like the Cardinals are. But yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking more about Donovan's profile fitting on Seattle's team very well, more than like what that trade actually looks like and who your target is.
So to be clear, you're just out on Luis Castillo though. No Castillo for you.
Well, that's not what we're looking for, right? I mean, I guess unless we say 2026 we're back in competing and we want a guy like that.
He's signed for 2 years after this year.
I guess I just get worried anytime you're acquiring a 32-year-old starter whose underlying metrics have been declining every year for several years in a row. Like what are you buying there with a Brendan Donovan who probably still has some upside? I don't think you're like, don't get me wrong. If the Cardinals were buying right now to win in 2025, I'd be all in, or I think Castillo would be a good grab. But I don't know that you're trading Brendan Donovan at the deadline to win this year, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know who else we could pry from them, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
Yeah. Just hit that force accept button that, comes up and whenever you offer trades.
They have to do something at some point, right? Or people are just going to storm the gates at T-Mobile. Yeah. Like they have to add to their offense.
Who's
Cole Young? Their second baseman. Who is that guy?
Who is that guy?
Oh God!
Have you seen? I've been meaning to bring this up. Have you seen the name of David Byrne's new album?
I have not.
It's Who Is the Sky? Who is the Sky?
Yeah, Who is? We gotta have him on the pod.
Who is the Sky?
Yeah, I hear it. Thank you.
We got Gorman in Andor. We got Gormania in Andor. We got David Byrne making albums after our bits. I'm just saying. Man,
the synchronicities, my dude. I'm tripping out, dude.
Whoa, nugs. All right. What do you want?
I got a gift card to Nugs downstairs. Let's start talking about some of these Cardinal players more. Let's talk about Nolan Arenado. He's injured right now, dealing with shoulder pain. It's just this trading deadline is coming at such an inopportune time. Nolan Arenado is currently injured, although not bad enough to go on the IL. Eric Fedde is pitching very poorly. It's just not working itself out. I mean, obviously, I can't really be worried about Arenado yet because he's not on the IL. So, I don't know what else there is to say other than we're going to watch a little bit of Gourmet right now and maybe a little bit of Donnie and see what happens.
Yeah, they're downplaying it. He's not on the IL, so there's not much to do. Maybe it's good he's getting. We've talked about it, where maybe it's good. Maybe they need to rest him more. Maybe this will help. I don't know. It's interesting to get a deeper look of Gorman at third base, who was supposed to play third this year had Arenado been traded. So, if something does happen, if he's traded, at least he's getting a little bit of a warm up over there before maybe being flung into it. Although, like you said, it might be Donovan plays third and JJ plays second, but probably not immediately.
Yeah. Can Gorman hit home runs at T-Mobile Park? Is he strong enough to do it?
I mean, I think he's got that power. He can hit anywhere, and they're better for lefty bats, but it's rough for everyone out there, unless your name is the Big Dumper.
God, love that man. Let's talk about Eric Fedde. We kind of mentioned him briefly. I'm going to read a quote from Fedde after his just rough start at Wrigley there. That was it's just been so bad for him. I feel bad for him. He says, "My sinker is not running, which is really killing me. My cutter is moving, in my opinion, a little too much. I need to clean up the mechanics to hopefully get back to those shapes that I like." He went on to say, "I'm throwing a lot of balls. When I'm throwing strikes, they're being hit well. It's a difficult situation to navigate. Maybe in a sense, I'm thinking too much about outside things, my mechanics, about tipping, about holding runners. I'm not just focusing on making a quality pitch right then and there. That's something that's inexcusable and I have to be better about." So, you hear that, and it's obviously a guy who is feeling a lot of feelings, which is not surprising because his recent performance has been really, really bad. And he's been through this, like on a human level, you hate it because he did the thing. He went over to Korean baseball. He remade himself. He came back over, got signed for a good chunk of change, 2 years, $15 million, and was putting together a really nice season with the White Sox. Obviously, we all know he got traded here. He had a good end of the season and even had an okay start. And, we're in the middle of really, really bad run. Like, where is he? Like his past 4 starts, he's given up 18 runs. He's given up 11 walks, only 6 strikeouts. His ERA is over 10.
Yeah.
And even before that, he had a couple of good starts right before that and had another bad run earlier in the year. So it's just been a bad year. He is, I believe he's the 8th or 9th worst pitcher by FWAR in MLB today. It's been bad.
Yeah. On a team that is already relatively starved for starting pitching, right? So, you know what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of Paul DeYoung when he's really struggling too. This guy who's just like hyper aware of his own process and has seemingly been like super successful because he's been able to, like, I don't want to say like outsmart everybody, but like the kind of guy who becomes a coach eventually, because he just understands mechanics and his mechanics need to be working flawlessly for the outcome to be what he wants. And the moment it's not, they get in their head and they just like, and that is a spiral, right? And Paul DeYoung's still in the league. Did you see that? He hit a home run the other day for I think it was like the Nationals or something. But
it's so crazy to me that Paul DeYoung is like a legitimate good major league shortstop. I just never thought. I always kind of thought it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And it is.
He's still around. Good. But yeah, those types of guys, right, that are just like their mechanics are everything, and that's all they think about, and so they can get into these spirals. And I guess like the good thing is like they've done it in the past, they can get themselves out of it. Eric Fedde has struggled heavily at other parts in his career and has been successful, but not a lot of time left for it to matter for the Cardinals. And despite the Miles Michaelis record-setting performance, it feels like he's the first one out at this point. and Mozeliak.
Well, he's making a lot less money, which makes the decision, how the Cardinals think about this kind of thing, makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and Mozeliak said we need to find a space for McGreevy. Yeah, I would argue 6-man rotation, just keep it going. But I'm also kind of fine with if they decide to. I don't know. Fedde's got a shoulder impingement or whatever, and he needs a rehab assignment or whatever. That sort of thing.
I think that's, do you just drop the dude? Do you ask him to go to AAA to tune up? Do you fake an injury? Like what do you do? Or do you just say, good luck, buddy. Try, sign somewhere else and get after him.
Yeah, I could see them skipping a start for additional rest and for tune up and giving McGreevy a start, giving him one more. And at that point, it'll be, July 18th or whatever. And if that one is bad, and the team is otherwise in competition, then a harder decision is made.
Yeah. As you and I are talking, he is scheduled to start the Saturday game against Atlanta. So I guess we'll see if that actually happens. To turn it over to McGreevy, like I think we've been saying this for a while.
Yeah.
We're really impressed with everything he's doing. I think to the degree that we can say that like there's nothing left for him to do in AAA.
Right.
He's proved that to me. And, if anything, I feel like we just haven't seen enough of him in the big leagues with the flashes that he's shown against some of the really tough opponents. So, yeah, the whole thing sucks. It sucks that we traded for him. We got rid of Tommy Edman, and I guess you can't really think about it because at the time it made sense. But just the way that it unfolds, the branches of a trade, it stinks to be on this side of it, and it stinks more for Eric Fedde. But
he'll be fine. It's kind of like worst case outcome for this whole thing, because I remember when we did the trade, it was like, okay, well, if they're going for it this year, if he continues the good stuff, at least they have now traded for a very good trade candidate in his own right, and they can flip him or whatever. But as it stands, that seems incredibly unlikely. I mean, I guess you could go the other route of what I just said and instead just throw him out there Saturday and say, well, let's just hope he puts it together for 3 more starts before July 31st and they can trade him.
Trades have been made on less than that. It's a very recent performance, especially with pitchers, is what people are looking at the deadline. So yeah, I mean, there's a chance. I wouldn't bet any money on it, but he's your guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other Cardinal related news or anything you want to talk about before we move to the next section?
No, we talked about JJ. We talked about Helsley and trading him. We talked about Arenado. Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the Cardinals are nearing victory against the Nationals right now, which is great, as it should be. And we're going to talk about the upcoming series, a little bit of league news, and a little game. But before we do that, we want to remind our listeners, as always, that this show is supported by listeners just like you. You out there driving, folding a towel, washing dishes.
I thought you were going to try to guess what car somebody was driving.
There's you're out there driving your Mazda Miata top down.
Wow.
Zooming around,
I hope somebody's driving a Mazda Miata with the top down and blasting us. That would be great.
Hey, everybody, welcome to that's what you want to listen to when you're driving your Mazda Miata. Well, anyway, if you're out there driving your Mazda Miata, I see you. And you may consider joining our patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Patrons of any level get access to the Bird Squad. That's our private Discord server. It's a chat group. It's a great place to hang out with other Cardinal fans and get away from the terrible social media atmosphere that we exist in right now, and come to our little pocket, our little safe
fish picks.
Fish picks?
Fish picks.
Oh, fish picks. Yeah, there's going to be fish picks this week. Now that's a selling point. And you can download those fish picks. You can put them on your phone. You can make them your screen background, whatever you want to do with those visuals.
They're yours. They're yours. Do whatever you want.
Ben will have his watermark on them.
Of course.
Yep. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We also appreciate everyone that leaves a review on their favorite podcast platform. That helps a ton. And consider telling your friends and family. Now's a great time to get on board with the show. Hambone, where else can people find us online?
We got all the social medias. We are on Blue Sky. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok. You can listen to this show on Spotify if you would prefer that. You can watch this show. You can watch us. Nate, I'm talking to you right now.
What's up?
Hey, on YouTube. We're there. You can also listen to us on YouTube. You can find all of the podcast information, the show, shirts, and more at talkingaboutbirds.com. And of course, you could email us questions or thoughts or whatever to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. You can, in addition to all of those things. But wait, there's more. You can call us and leave a voicemail or send us a text message to 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737.
All right, 848-48-BIRDS. All right. The Cardinals will head to Atlanta. I'll be in Georgia, a little far away from Atlanta, though.
Wow.
We're all heading to Georgia.
Okay.
We're going to Georgia to play the Braves. The Braves have been a big talk this year. You know, part of the reason why the Cardinals are in contention for a wild card spot is because the Braves are not. You know, they had that horrible start and seem to be coming back. I know at one point we were talking about like they were right around 500. Certainly seemed like they were, going to put that bad start behind them. But they've now had a bunch of pitching injuries. Chris Sale is out. Spencer Schwellenbach, yet another young Brave starting pitcher who's entered into the scene and seems dominant, is hurt. So their pitching has been a problem. They do, however, have Ronald Acuna Jr. back, who seems to have not missed a step after his second terrible ACL injury. So good offense, mediocre pitching. They still have some very good pitching. Don't get me wrong, but it's not what it has been in the past. So a good team despite the record, and not a team that I think you could just go in and expect to beat at home despite their low record. They can still hit the ball pretty hard.
Yeah. Looks like the Cardinals are going to draw Grant Holmes, Hurston Waldrep, and Didier Fuentes.
Didier.
Oh, I was really wanted to not say something else there, but so one of those names I'm familiar with, the other two less so. Grant Holmes has put together a pretty nice start to the season, has looked really, really good. But yeah, I mean, this team is kind of goofy. Jurickson Profar, he's back in the mix, Nate. Mm-hmm. He's hitting a couple of doinks.
He has.
Matt Olson is that dude. I'm a big Matt Olson believer. Austin Riley and like you said, Acuna Jr. is still there, and everybody else has kind of been meh. Yeah. Ozzie Albies isn't really being Ozzie Albies. Michael Harris isn't really being himself. Sean Murphy's kind of a hybrid backup role now with Drake Baldwin, who does seem to be another potential dude. But yeah, this team is, I don't know. Is this a transition year for them, or is it just
wasn't supposed to
bad
be
luck kind of piling
this
up?
Is supposed to be a highly competitive team. You mentioned, I don't think it's pronounced Didier, but I'm really not sure. But it did remind me, I've been meaning to ask you, are you excited to potentially be able to return to some freak-offs?
Such an idiot.
I mean, your guy, he's almost completely scot-free, so I assume you're going to be able to reattend your favorite party experience.
Yeah.
You just want to walk on past that one.
Yeah.
All right. So that
No, I was letting you swim in it. I wanted you to be
that
there.
guy, he's like 20 years old. They called him up. It was like directly from single A, maybe double A. Someone that was they've done this in the past. Spencer Strider was one of them too, though he was a little older. AJ Smith Shawver, another guy that they've done. They identify these guys really young, and they believe he's crushing it, and that his stuff will immediately play. And they have a big opening at the major league roster, so they call him up and just skip most of the minors, despite very little experience in the minors. And not like college guys either, where that happens.
Yeah.
It hasn't quite worked out for him, but he seems like someone who could be good, but I mean, completely thrust into an impossible situation.
His nickname, according to Baseball Reference, is Silent Assassin.
That's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, is that a nickname though, or is that like? No one's like, oh, hey, Silent Assassin. Like, oh, okay, guys.
That's what it says on Baseball Reference, Nathan.
That's like
argue with them.
You
idiot.
Grant Holmes is having a very good season. So
I already said that.
He's no one to, but I said it now and it makes it better. He's no one to slouch at, you know what I mean? So
you shouldn't be slouching at that guy.
Don't slouch at that guy.
I've said it 1,000 times.
It's a classic phrase that we're all saying. People are saying it.
The Cardinals will then have a break because all of baseball will have a break because it's the All-Star break. Can you believe it? Break.
Wow.
Break.
Wow.
After the All-Star break, the Cardinals will be playing 3 games against the D-backs, but I guess we don't really need to talk about that now because we'll have another. You and Daniel can talk about that next week.
Yeah, I guess we can. It'll be a short week of games, and we'll have the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby and all that. So I guess we just hope, that everyone calls it the first half, but we're way past the first half at this point. So, there'll be like 60-something games left after the All-Star break, maybe low 70s. So the heat is on, Hambone.
Heat is
That's what
on.
I wanted. I wanted you to sing.
Heat is on.
All right, let's do some league news.
All right, let's get into it. We got a bit of a newsy week this week, Nate. Nationals have fired their president of baseball operations, Mike Rizzo, and their manager, Dave Martinez, at the same time. What is your thoughts on this?
Well, at first I was quite surprised because I thought, they have such a good young core. We've talked about that team as a team that we're pretty excited about for the future. But then I started thinking about it a little bit more. It's getting late. And then I thought, well, actually all of those guys came from one trade.
It's true.
And it's been several years now. They have almost nothing else really going on for them than the good guys they got from the Juan Soto trade, where the Padres dumped their top 5 prospects to him for 2 years of Juan Soto. A great deal, but that's the one thing. And I guess you could argue that Rizzo and crew should have seen this coming a little bit more and built a better team around this core. And they should be, considering the fact that they have some of the better young players in baseball, they should be more competitive than they are right now. And I'm guessing that's kind of where this decision making came from. So still a little surprised by it. But I guess, it's the Nationals. They are a team that wants to compete, and they haven't for several years now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously C.J. Abrams and James Wood and Mackenzie Gore, those are the 3 best players on their team, and they are really good. And Gore took a huge jump forward this year with James Wood, and it's a lot of fun for them. But there's not really anybody else on that team. Also, talk about their other trades, like Keibert Ruiz is not good. I don't know if he really should be starting as many games as he's starting in the big leagues.
I thought he was going to be. Everyone did. I really thought he was going to be better.
Dylan Cruz has not been good, but he probably still will be, right?
So he was a guy, if it wasn't for the injury, I really think he was on the on the come up. Like a lot of the underlying metrics were supporting a breakout. I think it could still happen if he comes back healthy. He's still very, very young.
He's only 23.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a star and was on the path towards it before his recent injury.
Yeah. Luis Garcia Jr., I think, is legit. Maybe not great, but good. But yeah, I mean, like when whose fault is this? Is this Rizzo's fault or is this ownership's fault? When your big offseason moves, is bringing in Nate Lowe.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Soroka, you bring in Soroka, who's maybe could be good someday, but he's literally made of glass.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can do with him. I mean, you're putting a really sizable amount of weight. Your structure is very reliant on Jake Irvin performing well.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to do it? So again, I don't know if Rizzo is making bad calls or if he felt hamstrung by ownership or if it was both. I know from what's been reported and kind of some things that have been said on background is that both of these guys are described as quote unquote old school. And it could be just a situation where the Nationals want to not be old school. They want to bring in their Chaim Bloom. And maybe either Rizzo was unable to change or unwilling to change, and maybe the same is for Dave Martinez. I guess we'll learn more. But, you got to – when somebody like Wood and Abrams and Gore are popping like they are, you got to put a cast around them to excel.
Yeah, and I think Wood has exploded even further than we expected this year, but you had to see this coming, right? CJ Abrams also really broke out last year. So I don't know that they necessarily should have been pushing in to win this year, but they.
Well, that's the other. Like, what are the expectations on the timeline?
Yeah.
Were they expected to be competitive this year, or was that what Rizzo was selling them that they were going to be competitive this year? Because he would have been the only one.
Yeah, no, I mean, allowing the Rangers to dump Nate Lowe to you. I mean, don't get me wrong, S to your name, but like outside of that, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you finished that up like that.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
Okay. The Brewers, our favorite guys in the Central, have activated Brandon Woodruff, Nathan. This move, multi-years, this move has been in the play for years, is I guess what I'm trying to say. It's finally paying off, and he's back.
And he looks good. He'll probably never return to his former self because he was
so good.
Well, he was one of
the
the best pitchers in baseball. So you don't even need that. But he looked. Well, I only really dug into one start, and maybe he's only had one.
He's only had one start,
But that one was good, very, very good for a guy who hasn't pitched in the majors in years. And we were talking about it back when it happened that like whatever team signs Brandon Woodruff is going to be happy about it in 2 years, and here we are. So it was probably always going to be the Brewers, that's just how these things typically work. But I remember we were like, Cardinals, please go get Brandon Woodruff right now. It'll be cheap and he'll be good. And, imagine if he was being activated for the Cardinals right now versus the Brewers, we'd be very excited.
Yeah, and it's going to be half a season. He's got a mutual option, which will not be picked up unless he gets. I don't even know what the scenario would be, but that won't happen. So, he got a decent chunk of money for a very short amount of time, but he is that good.
And we're basically tied with them. So like this is a huge grab for them right now. Like
very big.
The timing almost couldn't have been better, right? So.
It's almost like they planned.
They're in the second wild card spot. They're up 2 games on San Francisco, so up 3.5 on the Cardinals, and they just activated, a very, very good starting pitcher.
And with them, obviously we know about Fedde Peralta. We got introduced to Jacob Mizorowski, and Quinn Priester just keeps kind of chugging along as a really decent, like, third or fourth starter. which Pittsburgh has to be so mad about.
They said they have no interest in
but-
trading Paul Skeens, of course.
Yeah, well, maybe they should.
Well, I don't even know, man. What are you even looking for if you're trading Paul Skeens right now? Like
all of them, all of the players.
Yeah, who even
reset button?
What are you even? Yeah, it's an impossible trade to happen right now.
It is. Yeah. Anyways, Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, Jacob Mizorowski. It is your 1, 2, 3 going into the second half of the season. We should be afraid of the Brewers. Maybe that right there is all. Maybe that's your argument for okay, the Cardinals should sell.
Well, but they're only if we don't think the Cardinals are honestly competing for the NL Central, then the Brewers already have a wild card spot. It's that third one where it's like San Francisco, San Diego, St. Louis. It's all mixed in.
Technically, Cincinnati's in there, I guess.
Cincinnati I don't think they're really in there, but they are, from a games standpoint, they're 3 or 2.5 back. But I mean, I don't know. Arizona's only 4.5 back. So, there's so much baseball left.
There is. All right, moving on. The Guardians, Luis L. Ortiz is being investigated for gambling. Nate, did you read about this one?
Well, I did. And of course, Hambone, I must remind everyone at this point in this episode that this show is brought to you by DraftKings and FanDuel and Bet365. Bet more, bet hard, bet every day. Bet. Where are you? Bet, you fools. Bet now. What are you doing?
After the Cubs game, I went with my in-laws to the DraftKings bar that is basically connected to
do some betting.
Wrigley Field. I did not do any betting.
You fool.
But the TVs, Nate.
Yeah.
The TVs were incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know how to I don't want to even try to describe it, but they were
I've been
incredible.
to some sports books too. Like you can, in places where they're legal. And it's just like you can see how people get so fucking addicted to this stuff where you're just like staring at a wall of screens and you have money on all of them,
Yeah. They did have corgi racing, which was very exciting.
Now that's where you can get some money going. That's some action. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So anyway, this is an interesting one. Have you dug into this very much? How they found it? And everything.
So I'll do my best job of explaining what happened. Essentially, there are third-party companies, or I don't know what you call them, but there are third parties that are essentially looking at betting trends and looking for things that stick out for whatever reason, that are just odd or make no sense. And the suspicion is that if, for instance, if somebody places many or a very large bet on the first pitch of the second inning of the Tuesday Guardians game being a ball, or the first count being a 1-0 rather than 0-1, well, that a little alarm goes off.
Yeah.
And Luis Ortiz was involved with 2 such events, or basically exactly as I described. A large bet was placed on a ball or a strike call on a game that, in the landscape of baseball means very little. And he is being actively investigated. I don't know enough about how these third-party watchdog companies or whatever work, or how accurate they are, or how this all kind of plays out. But based on what I've read and what's been explained to me, seems like Ortiz might be done with baseball.
Yeah, they call them betting integrity organizations, and so
there we go.
And it's cool. It's like a super cool cottage industry that's also sprung up because of just how fucked it all is. I have very mixed feelings on sports betting. I'm not inherently anti-sports betting as a thing, so I don't want to come off too hard against it. But like the pervasiveness of it at this point, like the baseball, this is the least surprising thing in the universe that more and more players are getting caught up in it when you've got fucking the sport is sponsored by sports betting. And then they're like, oh, but don't do it. Don't you do it. Like, we're going to rake in billions off of it. But like, it's bad. It's really bad. So anyway, it is pretty fascinating. It's like I'm sure Ortiz was thinking, like, oh, well, no one's paying attention to this. And I mean, it's absolutely insane that it's gotten so narrow that you can bet on the account on an inning
So that was new
Yeah.
information to me that you could bet that specifically.
Yeah, it's been going for a while. There's also, there's been talks for a while too about stadiums, and maybe this has happened already at this point. I'm not sure, but there's been talks of stadiums like building iPads or tablets or whatever into seating, so you can bet in the moment on the thing that's in front of you. Like
I will break that goddamn
he's
iPad
gonna get a
if it's in front
single.
of my
He's gonna
seat.
get a stride. This next pitch is
Yeah.
gonna be a curve, $80. Woohoo! That sort of thing is where a lot of people see this going because it like and like the live sporting event is going to become the betting event like horse racing is or whatever. It's not about
Ugh.
the sport, it's about the betting on the sport.
Sure.
But so yeah, and he's probably dumped too much money. I mean, I'm guessing, man, I bet this was like immediate red flag shit because like who's betting on that? And then these guys have a lot of money. I mean, I know he's on rookie contract, but he's probably not betting $20. You know what I mean? So like,
Right.
you see someone bet, probably thousands on this sort of thing. The thing that I thought was a little interesting too is did you see the pitches?
Yeah.
They're fine. He sold it for.
Well, one of them I was like, I think you could argue this either way. The other one was like a 55-footer.
Yeah, I like, but he's lucky the guy didn't swing at the one, So,
Well, I will say I'll be very curious if you can prove that he placed money on the pitch, then you don't really need
it doesn't
to prove
matter what the
anything
outcome
else.
was. Yeah.
So because like I don't know how, like, especially that one that was honestly barely a ball, like I don't know how you could ever prove his intent on that. But if you prove that Luis or Ortiz put money on this pitch,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's
over.
The bet. I imagine he's done. I don't think it gets to this point. I don't think it gets to the team. I don't think they put him on suspension. It's paid suspension, but I don't think it gets to that point if they don't have, they don't bring that shit public unless it's, they got him. So I think it's done. And I don't know, maybe this is a one and done thing. Like no one else is going to be stupid enough to do it this way.
Well,
but I don't know.
I do feel the need to say the obvious thing. And it's like, you would make so much more money being a major league pitcher than betting on it. Like, dude,
he's like young, pretty good. Like he's got millions in his future,
Yes. I mean, he's a solid major league pitcher. That alone is a very good spot to be.
What's the actual odds on, what's the spread or whatever on a will Luis L. Ortiz throw a ball or a strike? There can't be a lot of action on that,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's,
I don't know, but this,
I kind of feel bad for him, but obviously it was very stupid also. And he, maybe he's addicted or maybe he's just dumb.
Or he's
I guess we'll learn
caught
more.
up in like a broader thing or pressured by family or who knows, there's so much that there's so much that goes into how someone makes a decision like this. So it sucks. Like I've been, we've been kind of laughing about it too, but it does suck. It sucks for him. And, but it shouldn't have done that.
As somebody who's never placed a sports bet, unless it's like betting $5 with a buddy, I'm very far away from it.
Yeah, same. Like I'm a big fantasy guy, but I think that's different. And I've done, like you and I have done, in our some of our friends in our baseball chat and what we'll do like $5 on who wins the World Series or that sort of thing.
Well, I'm sure we'll place a bet on the home run derby.
Yeah, but that's like it's among friends and it's usually like $5. That's the closest I've ever come to it as well because I'm just not very interested in it.
Yeah. All right. Another kind of downer thing I wanted to talk about is Bobby Jenks, former major league closer, passed away at the age of 44 after battling with cancer. I will say, I don't know why, but I think it's because of the baseball game, the MLB 2005. I just feel like I have a very intimate memory of Bobby Jenks. He won a World Series with the White Sox. In that game, he had great stuff. And he did have great stuff for a few years, classic kind of closer's career. But a guy who I think probably baseball fans around our age remember and just so young.
Yeah, I never know what to say on these sorts of things, but Hope his family and everyone's doing okay. Very, very talented guy.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Let's end on a little bit of a lighter note. I brought up the home run derby. Nate, it came out today that Pete Alonso has decided not to compete in the home run derby. Our big strong man is taking a day off. I can't say I'm disappointed. Obviously, he's put up a couple L's, and I guess he's probably more focused on making $1 bajillion this offseason, which I get.
Yeah.
But no Pete in the derby.
I know. I think it's a good thing, probably for his mental health. He did not ever seem to be having fun doing that thing.
I worry about him when he's doing it. Yeah.
I think it's probably better for everybody that he's not there. I just imagine, because the home run derby has become such a fun atmosphere, and it's all about like celebration, and you just have this monster man who's won it multiple times, who like looks like he's like meditating and taking swings in the clubhouse in between every round, when everyone else is out like wearing chains and talking with kids. Like, I think it's probably better for him, and
I think that's a nice way to look at this. I won't have to worry about somebody this home run derby, which is nice.
Like it just it's we laugh a lot about our big strong man, big strong guy, the polar bear.
Yeah.
I think it's probably good he's not doing it.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got for league news, Nate.
All right, Hambone, it's getting late. I actually mentioned this game earlier today. We're going to do a quick little round of who is this guy? All right. So,
wow.
If you have not heard this before, I have the name of a person who has played Major League Baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals at some point in their career. I have a set of clues. This time I have 4 clues. And they start very vague and get increasingly specific. Ben has to make a guess as to what player it is. Makes a guess if he can after every single clue. You ready?
Yeah. I'm
All right. This player was born on October 4th, 1978 in Chico, California.
Born 1978.
Chico, California.
Right. So who is our Californians from that area or from that age group? How old is David Freese? Is David Freese that old? He can't be that old. David Freese is a few years older than. Oh, how old is David? He's from California. No, he's from St. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I wasn't gonna say.
No, he was
anything,
traded.
but, yeah.
No, he was traded from the Padres. That's what I was thinking. Everybody, shut up. But he's probably too young. Also, who is like? What is that? Like late 40s?
Yeah.
Who is in their late 40s and is from California and has been a Cardinal player and wow, I don't know. Jim Edmonds.
Nope. I had to mail something the other day to Rancho Cucamonga, California. How fun is that?
Wow, that's very fun.
Rancho Cucamonga. All right.
Believe that's where the show Workaholics was based.
I think you're right. It was a good show. All right. This player played in no particular order for Minnesota, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Texas, and Milwaukee.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They played Major League Baseball games for those teams.
Can you say it again, please, the list of teams?
Cincinnati, Minnesota, Philadelphia, St. Louis, Texas, Milwaukee.
Whew. Just based on those teams, I don't remember if he played all of those places. But Kyle Loge is coming to my brain, so I'm going to say Kyle Loge.
Hambone, you got it after 2.
Let's
Kyle
go.
Loge. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
Oh, God.
Kind of just forget about Kyle Loge, you know?
I never forget about Kyle Loge. He was needed for many years.
Well, here, I'll tell you my other 2 stats. He was drafted by the Chicago Cubs in the 29th round of the 1996 MLB amateur draft from high school. Now he signed with the Cardinals as a free agent for 1 year and then signed a 4-year extension after that 1 year was good.
Right.
After 2012 was his last year. And then he rejected a qualifying offer and went over to Milwaukee. I think you'd maybe get it after that because of the 4-year extension. Like the Cardinals have not done a lot of those. And then the final one, after a couple of rough years, you may remember 10 and 11 were pretty rough for him. After a couple of rough years with the Cardinals, this pitcher bounced back in a big way, culminating in his 2012 season where he led the league in winning percentage with a 16-3 record. He placed 7th in the NL Cy Young Award voting that year. His only time getting a single, I think he got 3 votes for the Cy Young. It was one of those seasons where like he didn't strike out a lot of guys from a WAR perspective. It's like 4, but the record was incredible. Low whip, low ERA, sub-3 ERA. And
so I kind of remember him just like not having great stuff, but just getting a lot of outs and always being there. Didn't he have like some crazy experimental forearm surgery or something like that? Because I remember him getting that and then getting a crazy tattoo to cover up the
was
scar.
he one of the first to get the thoracic brace? Because everyone kept saying it was a motocross injury. I remember that.
Yeah.
It might not have been the thoracic brace, but I kind of feel like it was. I remember
something.
I remember
like that,
the talk was like, this is a motocross injury that guys get from gripping and like spinning the handlebars, and he got that, presumably from the grip on the baseball and the torque or whatever. But and if he had like a -2 WAR season with the Cardinals in there, and then 2012 he was good, very good, and declined a qualifying offer.
Yeah, makes sense. What was your easiest?
That was it. I normally have like a goof one, but the other thing about Kyle Loge, and maybe that should have been my last quote. I guess it could have been that motocross injury thing. I normally have like a joke one, but I just like could not think of a joke about Kyle Loge.
Yeah, well, that's kind of
but maybe that should have been the.
He's a funny player because he played in the big leagues for 16 years and was good, but he is like kind of one of those guys.
It's like the low strikeout, just he had 212 innings or whatever in that 2012 season, which was the season right in between the 2 World Series teams.
Right.
So, yeah. All right.
Well, thank you for your service, Kyle.
Yes. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Talking About Birds. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hambone for going so late. This was my scheduling request, although it's a little earlier for you, but almost midnight here in St. Louis as we record this. So remember links to everything on talkingaboutbirds.com. I'll be back next week with Daniel. So hopefully y'all are looking forward to that. And until next week, let's go Cardinals.
Let's go Birds.
Talking about